Alright, so good morning, students. Today we will take up the text of the singing lesson by Catherine Mansfield Beauchamp or Kathleen Mansfield Murray. So, I had already given you the introduction to this story in an earlier video, which you have all seen, and now you have an overall idea about the story and the author. So without wasting much time, let's begin with the text. I expect all of you to open your textbooks and take out this short story. Plus, you can see the text on your screen, which I have taken from the internet. So you won't have any problem if you either follow from the textbook or if you follow from what you see on the screen. But if you use the textbook, then you can follow it side by side, or you can just listen to my voice and you can just follow the lines in the textbook, so that it seems to be more of a class-like experience for you. And that's the reason why I always tell you to take out your textbooks. So let's begin. The singing lesson, this story was written in 1920. So 1920 and we are in 2020. So this story is 100 years old. So you are reading something which is a century old, and like I had mentioned in my previous video, the age of 30, which is the age of our protagonist, Miss Meadows, in this short story, is definitely therefore not suitable for marriage anymore, because girls 100 years ago got married much earlier than what the age of Miss Meadows is said to be in the story. So let's see what happens in the singing lesson. With despair, cold, sharp despair, buried deep in her heart, like a wicked knife, Miss Meadows, in cap and gown and carrying a little baton. What is a baton? A small stick. Normally, this kind of baton is used by conductors. Who are conductors? The ones who conduct music lessons. So when you listen to an orchestra, you will find that there is a person standing in front of the musicians who keeps on waving his arms, and in his hand he holds a stick. So that is the baton. Now here we are dealing with a lady who is just 30 years old, and she is a singing teacher, or she is a music teacher in a school. And she is carrying her baton in her hand. She is wearing a cap and a gown, and she was walking, trod means walked, the cold corridors. Now see, the description begins with coldness. Why? Because she has just received the letter from her would-be husband, her fiancé, that he is sorry he cannot marry her, and that he was breaking the engagement. And that is what brings coldness in her life, and that's the reason why everything is described with a kind of coldness in the story as it begins. So, cold corridors that led to the music hall, girls of all ages, rosy from the air and bubbling over with the gleeful excitement that comes from running to school on a fine autumn morning, hurried, skipped, fluttered by. From the hollow classrooms came a quick drumming of voices. A bell rang, a voice like a bird called. So these are common noises which you get to hear when you are in the school. You are all accustomed to such noises, because when you come to the school, just before the class actually begins, you have so much of commotion. You hear sounds coming from different classrooms, and then you hear the bell, and as soon as the bell goes, there is a rush. Children rush back to their classrooms, or maybe they rush for the assembly. So in this case, bell, here the bell signifies the beginning of the class hour, and that's the reason why this description is given here, to make us accustomed with the environment of a school. Now these are all girls. You don't see any boys here, because like I told you in my previous video, this is a girls' school, and even the principal is a lady, and most of the teachers here whom we meet, they are all ladies. And so what happens is, a bell rings somewhere, a voice like a bird called, or rather cried, "Muriel!" And then there came the staircase, there came from the staircase a tremendous knocking. Someone had dropped her dumbbells. So you see, somebody called out to someone. Muriel is not important, but somebody called out this name, maybe the name of a student, or somebody calling out to maybe perhaps a staff member or someone like that. And then somebody dropped a dumbbell. What is a dumbbell? Normally it's a small weight which is used for bodybuilding. Generally bodybuilders use it, and sometimes you have mock dumbbells which are used for the purpose of drills, which are made out of wood. Anyway, somebody dropped a dumbbell, or dropped her dumbbells. The science mistress stopped Miss Meadows. So as Miss Meadows was entering the building of the school and walking down the corridors, she heard all these sounds, all these noises were coming from all around, like it happens just before the classes start. And then down the corridor came another teacher. We have already been acquainted with her earlier in the introduction. It is the science mistress, though we don't know her name. Her name is not mentioned. "Good morning," she cried in her sweet, affected drawl. "Isn't it cold? It might be winter." So just like, when two people meet, they talk about the weather, they exchange greetings and talk about the weather, and that's exactly what is happening here. She is first of all wishing her good morning, and then she is commenting about the weather. Though it's an autumn morning, and autumn mornings are generally a little cold, but they are tolerable, and so it's not really the winter, the season winter as yet. But then there is a certain chill in the air. Early winter, normally we experience a chill in the morning, but as the day grows older, you feel that the chill is gone and it becomes warm. So this lady is saying good morning, and isn't it cold? It might be winter. Miss Meadows hugging the knife. What knife? Is she really carrying a knife? No, she isn't. There is an invisible knife sticking to her heart. When she got that letter from Basil, it was like a knife going through her heart. The breakup, his refusal to marry her, that he was breaking the engagement. We've already discussed that earlier in the introduction. So there was this invisible knife inside her, and she seemed to be hiding it. She became self-conscious when this science mistress greeted her and started making conversation with her. She must not give away the fact that she has been rejected by her would-be husband. Because if she comes to know, because this science mistress is a nose poker, as I have told you already in the previous video, if she comes to know, it will soon be the biggest scoop news in the market. If she comes to know, then all the other colleagues will come to know. She has a big mouth. She goes around spreading information, giving information. It is her habit. And she has this inquisitive nature. She wants to know everything about everyone's life. So, Miss Meadows, hugging the knife, stared in hatred at the science mistress. So it is understandable why she hates her. Everything about her was sweet, pale, like honey. There are certain people, they act very sweet. They behave, their words are so, as if soaked in honey, sugar-coated words. And then the intentions are not that good. So Miss Meadows knows this science mistress very well, and being a woman, she can understand a woman better. And in the past, they could have possibly had a few other similar situations where she behaved very sweetly and then later on said something behind her back. So because of this reason she hates her. And so when she talks, we see hatred in the heart of Miss Meadows. You would not have been surprised to see a bee caught in the tangles of that yellow hair. She had yellow hair, and she was so sweet as honey, that even a bee, it was quite likely, could get entangled in her yellow hair. This is what Miss Meadows feels. Anyway, it is rather sharp, said Miss Meadows grimly. See, the response is also identical to the knife. If we are talking in terms of a knife, then the knife has to be sharp. Knife is a sharp object. And see her response. Isn't it cold this morning? And the response is, it is rather sharp. The other smiled her sugary smile. You look frozen, she said. Frozen. Her blue eyes opened wide. There came a mocking light in them. Had she noticed anything? There was a kind of mocking, mocking impact in her eyes, in her eyesight. She was as if trying to mock her. You look frozen. There was something in her eyes which Miss Meadows could not tolerate. And it is, human psychology. When you want to hide something, it shows in your, not just in your appearance, your thoughts are also always centered around what you want to hide. And that's the reason why Miss Meadows feels, has she understood anything? Had she noticed anything? Oh, not quite as bad as that, said Miss Meadows, and she gave the science mistress, in exchange for her smile, a quick grimace and passed on. So she somehow wanted to avoid her, made an expression with her face, and then avoiding her, simply tried to go away. And that's how she left. She moved towards the other end of the corridor, maybe towards her classroom. Forms 4, 5 and 6 were assembled in the music hall. Now in the US they call it grade. In India we call it class. And in Britain they call it form. It's all the same. If you are in the 6th grade, it means you are in the 6th form, and it also means that you are in class 6. So these classes, class 4, class 5 and 6, they had all assembled in the music hall. Now when a music lesson is given, it's not so simple. Music lesson means there could be different kinds of lessons. Whether it is singing, in that case you sing in a chorus, or it is playing some instrument. It's quite common in Europe and in England, also in the US, that children are taught how to play the piano or the violin, the organ. So these are some of the very commonly used musical instruments by the students in schools. They learn, and there is a kind of privilege provided to the students. If you have a knack for a particular musical instrument, you have separate classes for that. That is excluding your normal curriculum classes. So this was the music hall, and since it is a hall, it's a big room, and so 3 classes can easily assemble there. And all these girls, because this is a girls' school, will be singing, because they are here for their singing lesson. And who will teach them to sing? Obviously, Miss Meadows. The noise was deafening. Now, when you have 3 classes gathered inside a big hall and all are talking, naturally there are echoes, and from the 4 walls and the ceiling and the floor, as a result, there's a big noise going on. Something similar to what happens when we have any program in our auditorium. So initially, when students are made to come inside and sit down, there's a lot of noise, and then very often I have to announce, or somebody has to announce. Sometimes students, sometimes teachers. Most of the time, it so happens that we have to announce and say, please maintain silence inside the hall, because we will be beginning with the program now, so be silent. So the same situation here. So there was a lot of noise coming from the music hall. The noise was deafening. On the platform by the piano, now since this is a hall for music lessons, this is not exactly like an auditorium. It has a platform, not exactly a stage. A stage is a much higher platform. This is just a platform like you have in your classroom, where the teachers teach, where you have the blackboard where the teacher stands and teaches, so that he or she can get a better view of the class till the last bench. And also the teacher's table is placed on the platform. Now in this case, here also, in one side of the hall you have this platform, and the rest of the hall is meant for the children to stand. Now there was this girl, we have already been introduced to her in the previous video, Mary Baisley. On the platform by the piano, there was a piano kept on the platform, and next to the piano stood Mary, Miss Meadows' favorite. She was Miss Meadows' favorite student. Okay, we all have our favorite teachers, and similarly sometimes certain teachers also have their favorite students. It all depends on your behavior and also your promptness in doing any assignment. You can earn this special place in the heart of any teacher. If you are a hardworking student, then you automatically become a favorite student. So here Mary Baisley, Miss Meadows' favorite, who played accompaniments. Since she was her favorite, while Miss Meadows probably played the piano, since Miss Meadows probably played the piano herself, Mary was probably asked to play the other instruments which were required for the song. So Mary Baisley was standing next to the piano, and she was turning the music stool. Now the music stool, the stool in front of the piano, it has a revolving mechanism, so she was turning it just casually. When she saw, why was she turning it? She was waiting for her ma'am to come up into the hall, and then so as she was waiting, she had nothing to do. She was thinking about how long it would be before her teacher reached the hall. So impatiently, this is nothing but an expression on her part of impatience. So she was turning the stool. When she saw Miss Meadows, she gave a loud warning. Shh, shh, girls. Well, she is also like the monitor of the class. Now here there are 3 classes, and she's asking the girls to be quiet. And Miss Meadows, her hands thrust in her sleeves, the baton under her arm, strode down the center aisle. So she just walked up the center of the hall, children standing on either side, the same way as you see the chief guest walking up on during your investiture ceremony, from the middle of the hall, and the students on either side stand up and clap. So here in this case, it's not like they are clapping, but they are all talking, and in between there is this passage, and Miss Meadows is walking up that passage. Mounted the steps, and she climbed the steps to reach the top of the platform, turned sharply, seized the brass music stand, planted it in front of her, and gave 2 sharp taps with her baton for silence. So the way she turns, the way she puts the stand down with a thump, and the way she bangs on the stand with her baton, all show that she is not in a good mood. Silence, please, immediately. And looking at nobody, her glance swept over that sea of colored flannel blouses, with bobbing pink faces and hands, referring to the uniform or the dresses worn by the little girls, and their pink faces and hands, quivering butterfly hair bows, and music books outspread. So these girls, they had these hair bows with butterfly made on them, and their music books were open before them because they were all ready for their music lesson. She knew perfectly well what they were thinking. Meedy is in a wax. Well, the students love to nickname their teachers. You all are no exceptions. You also do that. So here Miss Meadows is also nicknamed Meedy, and the girls talk behind her back. This is what they are probably saying. Meedy is in a wax means there is some problem with Miss Meadows. She is not in a good mood. Well, let them think it. Who is thinking this? Miss Meadows herself is thinking this. She knows that she is called Meedy by her students. All teachers know what nicknames you give to them. So if you think that you give nicknames and the teachers have no idea, well, this is the proof. Miss Meadows knows that the girls are probably thinking that she is in a wax. To be in a wax means to be in a bad temperament. Well, let them think it. Let them think. If they think that way, doesn't matter. Her eyelids quivered. She tossed her head, defying them. This tossing of her head in defiance only shows how upset she is, and she does not want to show it. So she is trying to bring out her anger to suppress or to hide her feelings. She is upset, but she does not want to show her unhappiness. And so in order to hide her unhappiness, she is acting angry. What could the thoughts of those creatures matter to someone who stood there bleeding to death? She's talking about herself. What they think, what her students think hardly matters to her, because at the moment internally she is bleeding to death. There is this knife, an invisible knife sticking to her heart, and that is inside. The pain in her heart, the heartbreak that she is suffering. What do these students know about that? They have no idea. Pierced to the heart by such a letter. That letter was like a dagger. That letter was like a sharp knife. And it pierced her heart. It went through her heart, that invisible dagger, and it's paining and bleeding and bleeding and paining since then. Yet she had to come to the school. Her personal problems could not possibly be a reason for not coming to the school, especially when she's physically all right. She's not sick physically, but then mentally she is not herself anymore. I feel more and more strongly. These are the lines from that letter which she received from her fiancé, Basil. I feel more and more strongly that our marriage would be a mistake. Not that I do not love you. I love you as much as it is possible for me to love any woman. But, truth to tell, I have come to the conclusion that I am not a marrying man. I am not a man meant for marriage. In other words, he is trying to put the blame on himself. Well, when you want to break up with your beloved, instead of blaming her, You blame yourself. And that is what Basil has done in writing these lines. I am not a marrying man, and the idea of settling down fills me with nothing but the idea of settling down. Marriage means you settle down. Before marriage, you are a free bird. You fly around. The sky is your limit. But once married, you have to settle down. You have to build a nest. You have to settle down. And you have to start a family. You have to take responsibilities. You have to provide for your family. You have to earn the bread. You have so many duties to take care of. You have to bring up children. You have to take care of your family. So I am not like that. I am not really a man suitable for marriage. You cannot really call me a marriage material. Whenever I think of settling down, my mind is filled with nothing but disgust. Disgust? He wrote disgust in the letter. And then what did he do? And the word disgust was scratched out lightly. It was not scratched out properly. He intended, his intention was that Miss Meadows should see that word. He wrote it, then he scratched it off lightly and wrote regret over the top. Okay, so she is marrying her, settling down with her would be such a disgusting experience for him. Is that what he meant? That was a portion of the letter which Miss Meadows had received from Basil. Basil, Miss Meadows stalked over to the piano. Well, that was from Basil. Basil, the name Basil works in her mind with an exclamation mark. Such a shock, such a surprise that Basil could possibly write something like this. What did she do? She stalked over to the piano. She went up to the piano, and Mary Beasley, who was waiting for this moment, bent forward. Her curls, she has curly hair, and with lot of politeness and respect, this girl bends or bows forward, and when she does it, curls of her hair fall over her cheeks while she breathed, "Good morning, Miss Meadows." And she motioned towards, rather than handed to her mistress, a beautiful yellow chrysanthemum. She had brought this flower from home. Her favorite teacher, she wanted to give. Remember the times when some of you brought flowers for your class teacher or your favorite teacher when you were in the primary section? But as you grew up, that feeling, that innocence has disappeared. How many of you now think of bringing flowers for your favorite teacher, especially the lady teachers? I doubt whether anyone really thinks about doing so now. But look at the small kids in the primary section. I have even seen the tiniest of kids, nursery kids, coming with just a small, tiny little flower in the hand, holding it very carefully and coming to school. And the first thing he or she does is gives it to ma'am when he sees her. So, Mary Beasley, being the favorite student of Miss Meadows, has brought this yellow chrysanthemum for her. The girl is not at fault. She loves her ma'am. She has brought it for her. She has no idea that her ma'am is mentally upset. How was she supposed to know? Obviously, she didn't. So, this little ritual of the flower had been gone through for ages and ages, quite a term and a half. Meaning to say, she does it every time. For every music or singing class, she has this flower for her favorite teacher. And It has been going on for the entire previous term and then halfway through the next term. So we may imagine that we are now into the second term when all this is happening. It has to be because autumn has set in. So with spring begins the first term. So spring, and then you have summer, and then in summer you get some summer break also, and then again the school reopens, the next term begins, and it's autumn, and then again by the time it's winter, again it's time to close for the winter vacation. So this ritual of bringing a flower for her teacher, favorite teacher, Miss Meadows, has been going on for ages and ages, meaning to say a term and a half. It was as much part of the lesson as opening the piano. So it was part of the singing lesson. Every time there was this singing class, the flower was part of the ceremonial beginning of the class. But this morning, instead of taking it up, instead of tucking it into her belt, while she leant over Mary and said, "Thank you, Mary. How very nice," turn to page 32. This is what would be the normal response of Miss Meadows. Instead of saying all this, doing all this, what was Mary's horror when Miss Meadows totally ignored the chrysanthemum, made no reply to her greeting, but said in a voice of ice, "Page 14, please, and mark the accents well." Take out page 14 and the accents. When you sing, make sure where you have to go high, where you have to go low when you are singing. Singing is not like speaking. Words which are spoken with a typical pattern of accents, but when you sing, sometimes certain words are long drawn, certain words you have to raise the pitch of your voice. So pronunciation differs when it comes to singing. So she says, take out page 14 and mark the accents. Staggering moment. Mary blushed until the tears stood in her eyes. But Miss Meadows was gone back to the music stand. Her voice rang through the music hall. Page 14. We will begin with page 14. A lament. What kind of song? A sad song. Lament means expression of sadness. A song, there are happy songs and sad songs. Songs of joy, songs of laughter, and then songs of sadness. So this is a lament, a sad song. Now girls, you ought to know it by this time. We shall take it all together, not in parts. Meaning to say, we are going to sing it entirely at a time, not part by part. And without expression, so we are going to sing it without expression. Well, this is not related to the singing. This is the appearance of Miss Meadows. She does not seem to have any kind of expression on her face now. It is icy cold. She is maintaining a straight face, no smile, no warmth, nothing. Sing it, though quite simply, beating time with the left hand. So she says that while you sing, you have to maintain the beat with your left hand. See, when you sing, sometimes you have to maintain the rhythm of the song by moving your hand up and down. So use your left hand to do that. She raised the baton, the stick in her hand. She tapped the music stand twice. Down came Mary on the opening chord. Down came all those left hands beating the air, and in chimed those young mournful voices, and this was the song. Fast, too fast fade the roses of pleasure. Soon autumn yields unto winter drearer. Fleetly, music's gay measure passes away from the listening ear. So this is the song. Fast, too fast the song seems to talk about the happy days that have passed so soon from Miss Meadows' life. If you liken the wordings of the song with what she has been through, you will find that there is a striking resemblance between the wordings of the song and what she has been through. Fast are too fast, fade the roses of pleasure. Roses of pleasure. Those roses which give us so much of pleasure because of their beauty, because of their scent, they fade so fast. Her love has faded so fast. So fast are too fast, fade the roses of pleasure. Soon autumn yields unto winter drearer. And very soon what happens? When the roses have faded, think about nature. It's autumn, it's the season of fall, the flowers fade away, the leaves turn yellow and finally fall, and then autumn turns into deadly winter. Winter is so cold, it snows, it's white all over. So, same thing can be said about her mental condition. Autumn, all this is happening in autumn. The science mistress was referring to the weather. It's autumn, it's second term, and autumn has set into her life also, which will soon turn into winter, which is dreary, which is dreadful. Fleetly means very fast. Fleetly, music's gay measure passes away from the listening ear. If love is music, music does not last for long. It passes really very fast. And then it disappears from the range of your hearing, from your hearing range. So, autumn fades into winter, the roses fade, roses of pleasure fade away, and the happy notes of music, gay measure or happy notes of music also pass very fast. So fast that while you are enjoying the notes of music, they fade away and then you cannot hear them anymore. So we will stop here for the day, and in our next class, which will be in the next video, part 2, we will continue with and finish this short story. So up to this much, I guess I have been able to make you understand. I have explained in every possible detail. Plus, you must also go through my previous video. You must have already gone through, but still, in case if somebody hasn't, please go through so that you get a synopsis of this particular short story. And then if you have any queries to make, any questions to ask, you may ask, but best is to wait till we finish with the entire story, and then I'll also give you some questions to write. So that's all for today. Thank you very much.